Welcome to the Success Talk Show, the podcast for ambitious leaders who want to get their best results and create a workplace for their teams to thrive. Each week we share practical advice to help you accelerate your success and grow as an inspiring leader. Now here's your host, Leadership Success Coach, Donna Ceriani.
Welcome to another episode of the Success Talk Show. This is Donna Ceriani, Leadership Success Coach and founder of Success Compass Academy. In this episode, I'm going to share with you 7 strategies for developing a high-performance team. But before we dive into the strategies, I really want to just explore with you for a minute what this could mean for you and your team. Now, for you as a leader, when you have a reputation for developing high-performance teams, you personally become sought after for new opportunities. This could be juicy assignments, a new role, leading a new initiative, or maybe even transforming yet another team. This may happen to you depending on how your organization, how much it's changing and transforming. This could be where you're tapped many times to take on new things. Again, sometimes in a fast growth company, there's lots of opportunity and you want to make sure you're well positioned to be the leader who's sought after. Now, it could be that what you really want is a seat at the table to contribute at a more strategic level. Now, the ticket to get to that table is you absolutely need to deliver results. If you're not seen as someone who can deliver, you're not going to be invited into that inner circle. And developing a high-performance team to work with is absolutely crucial for that personal success that you may be aspiring to. Now, a little bit more on that one. I just want to mention when I interviewed Susie Welch, and this is episode 4 of the talk show, Lessons on Leadership, Trust, and Team Building, she talked about that. If you want a seat at the table, you have to deliver results, okay? Now, when you have a reputation for developing others and creating those high-performance teams, people want to work for you. They want to be part of a winning team. They know that you invest time and energy into the team and into them personally because they know it's going to pay dividends for their career. They know that this will lead to their own advancement, doing what they love, enjoying the satisfaction of making things happen, seeing progress, growing their career, getting to the next level, and being seen as successful and feeling successful and enjoying that experience. So when you develop other people and they see that has to be genuine, you actually have to put time and energy into it, then people are going to be really eager to work for you. Now, when it comes to progress, right, a high performance team, if you're part of that team, you know that making progress has to be something that's just in the DNA for the team, right? Now, I'm a book lover, and a fantastic book on this subject is called The Progress Principle by Stephen Kramer and Teresa Amiable. Now, the link to the book is in the show notes for this episode at thesuccesstalkshow.com, but the book is called The Progress Principle. Now, the reason I mention this book is because one of the reasons why I loved it is they go into really case after case of how lack of progress can destroy an organization because, it's demotivating, the organization doesn't make progress, it's kind of a downward spiral, but they give really practical tips all throughout the book on how you with a team can make sure that even those small wins, that all the things that you can do and that your team can do to show steady and moving forward and making progress and how crucial it is to the organization. They write that the secret to amazing performance is empowering talented people to succeed at meaningful work. Okay. Well, we're going to dive into that here with some strategies, but I wanted to mention that book because it's really, really, really good. And I'm a book lover, so I've got hundreds of books. So I always want to give you a good book recommendation along the way here. Now, let's dive into the strategies. Now, strategy number 1 is you really need to know what you bring to the team. You need to be clear on your own strengths because when you're building out this team, you're going to need to know what you're going to do yourself, what you're going to delegate, how you complement the team, how the team complements you. That synergy is crucial as a foundation for everything you're going to do with the team. Now, I'll give you an example. If you happen to be more strategic, one of your strengths is strategic thinking, being futuristic, and you're self-aware about that, maybe you're not as strong in sort of executing, getting into some of the details, really rolling up your sleeves in some of the detailed tactical stuff that's got to get done. Maybe that's really not your sweet spot. Well, then you have to make sure you've got members of your team who will compensate for that. Of course, right? That's logical. But on the other hand, maybe you tend to be really strong at execution, but you're not as driven to tackle the strategic aspects. Well, you know what? You may have people on your team who have some of those strategic skills, and you're going to want to partner with them because, again, together you're going to have synergy and be able to partner. And I'll talk more about the synergy in a minute. But for you to dive into your own strengths, be really clear on it. I give you some tips back in episode number 1 of this podcast, the Success Talk Show. And episode number 1 is called Acclimate to Accelerate Leadership Growth. Some specific tips in there on how you can get clear on your strengths using the assessment Strengths Finder. Really simple, enormously powerful. I use it with every one of my coaching clients as well as in my coaching programs. And I use it for whole companies, actually, for teams, organizations, and entire companies. So really powerful, but start there. Now, strategy number 2 is focus on the strengths of the team. Now, let's say you've got, I'll just say for sake of argument, let's say you have 6 people on your team, 6 direct reports. It will pay dividends if you pull the team together and do a strengths exercise, use Strengths Finder. Everybody does it. Everybody shares their strengths. Because when each person on the team is clear on their strengths, not just the strengths, but what are examples of activities they love to do, they're really good at, and when every one of their colleagues understands that as well, it helps the team really take their overall results to the next level. Now, let me give you an example. Because you want every team member to play to their strengths. Let's talk about an analogy that I love. Think of the baseball team analogy. Every player on the team has trained for a certain position. So let's say the pitcher shows up one night and the pitcher says, you know what, I think I'm going to play outfield tonight. Well, the team may not get their best results during that game because they win when that particular pitcher is on the mound. So think of that analogy with your own team. You've got people who are really good at very different things. And when you make sure that how the work gets divided up and how they collaborate takes that into consideration, you will get significantly better results. Okay. Now, I would even go so far as to when you go through this exercise as a team, say there's 7 of you all together, just making that up, you could even create a document. I won't go into the whole dynamics of how you would do this in your team meeting, but the outcome could be how the results are every person, their top 5 strengths, and document it as a team, use it as a reference. Everybody has a copy. When you have team meetings, you've got it at your fingertips. When anybody on the team needs help, there's something they're not very good at. They need to partner with somebody who has a complementary strength where together, when they collaborate, they get a better result. But it requires that there's clear description, clear intention, and they know who to go to. Oh, I know if I go to that colleague of mine, they love doing it. They're really good at it. It's my weak spot. Let me just, let's pair up. Let's buddy up. We'll get a better result. Okay. And for you as a leader, and this is according to Gallup, when a leader focuses on the strengths of the team, there's an 8-fold increase in engagement. 8-fold increase in engagement because every player on your team is playing to their position they've trained for. It's what they do best. It's what they love. So their engagement, that's that discretionary effort. And you want your team to really give 110%. That discretionary effort if somebody comes in and what they're doing is, it's okay, but it's not great. Well, you can make it go from good to great by focusing on the strengths of each team member. It makes a huge, huge difference because they're going to love what they're doing, going to be really excited, enthusiastic, proactive, going the extra mile. Okay, it makes a huge difference in the chemistry of the team. Now, strategy number 3 is invest in the development of each person. And make sure each person has a written development plan because one of the key drivers of engagement is that people need to feel they're learning and growing. They feel positive about their role. They feel positive about the team. They can connect the dots between what they're learning, what they're aspiring to, and how they're growing. And they can connect the dots between that and the task at hand, the project you're working on, the goals, the vision for the team, and your leadership. And really, I would say, and I taught a whole 3-month course on process improvement last year. And one of what I had learned was, this is a statistic I didn't know until I did some research, but that most process improvement initiatives actually fail to achieve the desired results. But there was a huge increase in the success rate when there's a learning component for the team. Well, that makes total sense to me, because the number one area I have always seen throughout my career that people were excited, motivated, and wanted more of was learning opportunities, right? To learn something new. So when you can link learning opportunities to the work at hand, and then how that's going to benefit the person in terms of their own career development, that's a win-win. Now, take it a step further. When they have a development plan, it's their plan, they've got to own it. Now, for some tips on that, this is a subject I'm going to be covering in a future podcast, but I just published the last podcast interview was episode number 36, Taking Ownership of Your Career Progression. It was an interview with Doug Maloney, and highly recommend that you listen to that, because there's lots of tips that he shares in terms of how he approaches one-on-one coaching and investing his own time and energy into it and the dividends. So for you, you absolutely need to, let's go back to if you have 6 people on your team, you need to make the time with each person one-on-one, even if it's a half an hour a week, an hour a week, an hour every 2 weeks, but you've got to put the time aside to give them your attention on how they're doing with the development plan, where can you help them, and actually can be as simple as they're giving you an update and how they're doing, what's working, what's not working, and you asking them, what can I do to support you on this, right? You're brainstorming, making sure they feel supported by you, okay? So invest in the development of each person. That is crucial for that high-performance team. Now, strategy number 4 is, now let's talk about the work itself. You have to have a written game plan with targets and metrics in front of you and the team when you discuss progress and next steps. Now, I would add to that game plan the vision. Now, you as a high-performance team, it is highly beneficial that every time you get together, let's say you meet every 2 weeks, or maybe you do this once a month, it depends on what you're working on, but you want to revisit the vision and the goals, right? You want to always have that in front of you, because people need that refresher. They need to hear from you, even if it just takes a few minutes to recap, but here's the direction we're heading in. As the leader, you need to articulate that, and don't just do it once and think you're set for the year, right? You need to repeat it, use different language, make sure you're painting a vivid picture of where the team is heading. But the importance of the game plan with targets and metrics is when you have your team meetings, and again, we want this to be a high performance team, you need to be able to translate that strategy into execution, and you need to be able to detect and address and resolve any problems. Okay, we'll talk about problems in a second. But when you have this level of detail in front of you, it allows the team to focus on what progress is being made, what's getting done, and where are the hiccups, so that as a team, you can discuss them, address them, resolve them, move on. Now, I just want to give you another book recommendation. This is something that I'll mention a little more on this story in a minute, but several years ago, I was leading my organization to re-architect our whole global client services division. And during that time, I was taking courses, and part of my development plan, I was really interested in how to build an innovative organization, build and sustain an innovative organization, as well as how do you make sure you're translating strategy into execution. So anyway, one of the books I loved coming out of that was the book. The title is Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan. Now, what I loved about this book, lots of takeaways, but one of the things I loved about it was it really talked about that sweet spot where strategy meets execution. And one of the failures is oftentimes some leaders will, and maybe this is you, maybe it's not you, but you think, oh, I'm strategic, I'm working on this higher level vision, goals, the strategy, the concepts, but I leave it to my team to execute. That's where you may fail. It depends on your team and your relationship with your team, but that's where it can fail, because what you really want to do is make sure you're dipping into execution, you roll up your sleeves and get into the details as much as possible to make sure that the team is clear, that you are moving in the right track. You don't want to simply hand them the strategy, delegate it, and move on, right? You say, oh no, I'm not really into the details. Execution's not my thing. It's not my strength. I leave it to my team to do it. Big mistake, disaster waiting to happen, possibly. I mean, it depends on, what your team does and so on. So I was working on this large initiative, a global initiative, huge initiative for the company, and a lot riding on it. And, we had, let's say, 6,000 financial services clients around the world. Time is money. We couldn't have any hiccups. So what we did is our team got together. I don't remember if it was weekly or every other week, but I'm going to say it was weekly. And our team might have been, 7 or 8 people. And when we had our conference calls and our meetings, we had specific details in front of us. Project plan, targets, metrics, milestones. We had it in front of us when everybody gave their update. We discussed what's going well, where are we falling behind, does anybody need help? We had the details in front of us. Now, what happened from that, and I had read this book, I was taking course, I just really wanted to make sure it was such a high profile initiative. I was really trying to up my game as a leader. But what I discovered was that in the meetings, if I didn't take that approach, people would very easily say, yep, I'm on track. They'd give very high level update. Yeah, I'm on track. Things are going well. Yes, A, B, and C, it's going well. And they tended to gloss over some crucial data that everybody else needed. So my role became really prompting them, probing, asking detailed questions, looking more at the targets and metrics, and asking more questions so that we could really shine a spotlight on, so what's going well? What are the problems? And digging deeper. What I discovered was, and I'll just tell you one quick story. There was one leader who was on conference call. She was in our London office and she was fantastic, hardworking, dedicated, really smart person, but she wasn't in the room. She was remote, as were a couple other people, but she was remote and she always gave a very positive update. Yep, things are going well. But when I probed and opened it up for discussion within the team, it was clear that she was completely missing the mark. She was really struggling and something really important just simply wasn't getting done. But she always, week after week, nope, things are going well. So those are the kinds of things you have to uncover in a really respectful way to offer help. How can we help you? Let's talk about that. Could you share a copy of that document? Let's take a look. We could give you some feedback. We could give you some help. Once we did that, we resolved everything, got back on track, and it worked beautifully. But if not, and you let people really give too much of a high level update, then you're not really focused on enough of the detail to help the team rally, collaborate, and do that problem solving together. Okay, so your role as a leader could be the person who digs deeper, asks the uncomfortable questions. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been on lots of management teams where the leader never did it. Not never, but rarely. Everybody, gave a quick update. Yeah, things are going fine. And maybe those conversations were happening behind closed doors, one-on-one. However, you can usually tell if things are going well, what's the correlation to how we're operating as a team. And if you can really build a high performance team through open, honest, respectful conversation, be able to, put the cards on the table of what's happening, where you're struggling, and do it in a really collaborative way, it's going to make a huge difference for the results that the team can get. Okay. But the plan has to be in writing. You can call it a project plan, milestones, targets, metrics, whatever it is, but it's got to be in front of you. Strategy number 5 is address problems quickly and engage people with the right skills. So one of the, the biggest killers of a high performance team can be you let problems fester, right? So one of the things you can do right away is make sure you know who on your team loves problem solving. Now, when I say problem solving, I don't necessarily mean any particular type of problem, right? It could be between people, organization, process, technology, right? There's lots of different types of problems, but there are many, many people who, and I've had many coaching clients who list problem solving as one of their top strengths, if not their number one. And they love to be involved in tackling complex problems. In fact, they often have that as a goal, that they're the go-to person more often in their organizations. Okay, so know who that is on your team. And then depending on what type of problem and what their, particular skill set is, be sure to involve key members of your team who are really good at this to help you come up with more creative solutions to a problem. One of the mistakes you don't want to make is to think because you're the leader, you've got to figure out the solutions to most of the problems on your own. And when you can link it to somebody on your team, they're going to feel recognized, appreciated, feel included. They're contributing. It's meaningful. They get to do more of what they like to do and are good at. So it's a win-win. Okay. Now, if the problem that needs to be addressed is actually that you have a weak link on your team, The problem could be a mismatch between the person and the role you're in. And I can't emphasize this enough. You need to address that as quickly as possible. It will drag the team down and it will impact the results you're getting. Now, often this is a situation that leaders shy away from. Now, I've worked with some senior executives who will say, "Oh God, I hate dealing with this." They ignore it, they let it go on. And you would think at the executive level, they'd be the first ones to address it. And oftentimes, in my experience, they're not. They don't want that. They feel like it's that sort of personal conflict or confrontation. They just don't want to do it. But as leaders, as we grow through our career, this really can have an enormous impact for the team, on the team getting its best results, the organization getting its best results. Now think of it also, if that's not a good fit for that team member, then by you addressing the situation promptly with respect and effective leadership, you're also helping that person find a better fit where they can be more productive and engaged so that they can do their best work. You're not doing them any favors by dragging it out. Because I'm assuming they know that they're not doing as well as they could be. They may be dreading the conversation because they're not really that happy with the situation either. So you will be doing the right thing for the right reasons by addressing it quickly. And you can always do it, like I said, with respect of, I want to help you make sure you get into the role where you're going to be able to thrive. This might not be a good fit, or, how are you feeling about it? And you have a very polite conversation. It doesn't have to be, sort of as uncomfortable as we sometimes think it's going to be. It can be really what's needed to move the team forward. Now, I've had to do this, as I'm sure you have, but quite a bit in my career where I was speaking with somebody who was delightful, love them as a person, great person, but it's just not the right role. Okay. It's just not the right fit. They're not a bad person. It's not that they're not smart enough, good enough, or whatever. It's that this isn't a good fit. Okay. So lots more we can talk about around managing performance. But when it comes to developing a high performance team, this is crucial. Okay. That every player on the team is playing to the position that they're best at. And if you've got a weak link, that could be what really drags the team down. Now, because the team then often will have an inordinate amount of attention focused on that one individual, and it can really hold the team back. Okay. Now, strategy number 6 is shine a spotlight on the team's progress and their accomplishments within the organization. You need to make sure that you're communicating the good work your team is doing to the rest of the organization, and really do it in a way that's appropriate for what their role is. So let's say, for example, there's really maybe one other division or one other department that really it has a big effect on. So maybe you just develop your communications with that one department or that one division. But if what you do affects all other departments, right? So it depends on, who's your target audience? Who's your target audience? Who needs to know? Who would benefit from knowing what is going on with your team? Who are your key stakeholders? And you could develop a communications plan. And this is something I teach people in my workshops and in my Black Diamond performance program. But you can craft a very simple communication plan that guides you on who are your key stakeholders, your target audience, and what are the different methods you could use to communicate that good work. Like just sending out an email is really not, the preferred way because people get annoyed with too much mail in their inbox and so on. But there are lots of other more creative ways you could do this. And I want to just tell you a quick story of probably one of my favorite ways I did this. This story, I'm going to use the same example. I was leading the re-architecting of our global client services model. I was in technology. My industry was financial services. A lot at stake with this initiative. It was a huge, huge initiative. And instead of creating just a boring PowerPoint slide presentation to give at a meeting, and one of the things I mentioned earlier I was studying was how to really build a more innovative organization. So I got inspired through some of my reading and the work I was doing to do something really creative and fun. So once we got our client services model completed and we were about to go live with our new model, and this was global, so there's, locations around the world that were impacted. Within our home base, our headquarters, I organized over a period of time a fairly large open house for my team to showcase the new model that we were rolling out. Now, I sent out an invitation to 300-400 people and invited them to our open house. Let's say it was on Friday morning, say from 9 to 11 or something like that. And, we served breakfast items. We probably had juice, muffins, coffee, whatever, just donuts, who knows. But it was a nice little buffet of breakfast items. And I said, come to our open house. We want to share with you this new client services model that we're rolling out. And what we did was, as they came into the open house, they got a little tchotchke. I think because we're a client services center and we had high stress job, we gave out stress balls, little squeezable stress balls that marketing donated to us. Anyway, everyone who came to our open house got a tour of our area with posters on the wall, and every member of the team had a role to play to help to greet people that came in, educate them as they came through. Every poster highlighted something else, had a person stationed at each poster to give a little, 1 minute, 2 minute talk. And in the words of a facilitation process, it was called a gallery walk. So people would walk through the area, and as they did, each station had a different aspect or a model that they were learning about from somebody on the team. Super fun. We created a yearbook with photos of every member of the global team. We had our team in the Philippines up on the monitors. They had a role to play and so on. So we made it really fun, and it got a lot of accolades because it was, instead of, again, a boring PowerPoint or an email going out, we turned it into an interactive event. Super, super fun. The team, I would say that the major highlight was the team itself. Every member of the team was so jazzed up because they felt really proud of what they were doing, really excited about the progress that we had made and what we were about to do. Very successful. Anyway, so it's just an example to say you've got to shine a spotlight on your team's progress and their accomplishments, because it'd be very easy for your team to head down, get the work done, but people don't quite know, that they've just moved a mountain, right? That they've just done something, spectacular. So you've got to figure out some creative ways to get the word out to the people who you think should know and want to know about it. Okay. And it's as energizing for the team as it is important for others to be aware of what you've accomplished. Okay. Now, the last strategy number 7, is be sure to give each person on the team the recognition that they will most appreciate, as well as the team overall. Now, recognition is different for everyone, and what you'll be doing as you're coaching each person one-on-one, having coaching sessions, which are different than, management, show me your tasks, are you on track, what's going on. Coaching is their aspiration, their development plan, their career growth, how they're doing, what they're learning, where they need your help. In those sessions, you'll also should be getting a better sense of what will be important and valuable for this person when it comes time to recognize them, appreciate, say thank you for their contribution. Based on their own unique style and personality, what would they appreciate? Ask them, right? If you don't know, ask them individually, privately. Get a sense of that. Because one person may absolutely love the spotlight and bask in the glow of it shining right on them in the middle of a big public event. They love that public praise, right? They love it. Whereas somebody else may detest it, shy away from the spotlight, and really would have preferred, private conversation, maybe even a thank you note, something they can pin to their wall. Who knows? But what they really want maybe is to be invited or included in certain types of meetings or activities, because they'll see that as a form of recognition. So there's lots of forms of recognition, getting your attention, more time with you, getting resources, getting the funding to go to a seminar, a course, a conference. So you can recognize people on your team in many ways other than, right, cash. Everybody wants gift certificates, cash, bonus, right? But there's lots of non-monetary forms of recognition. Maybe it's for the entire team or it's for an individual. Somebody's going to get the chance to go to the conference or be the representative for the team, or they take turns, whatever. But you can really get creative about this. But my point really is recognition is crucial for employee engagement. You don't want to save it up for the end of a project, the end of an initiative. You certainly want to do it then, but think about every single week. What are those small things you can do? Words you can say, email you could send someone, be specific, or something you can say in a team meeting. But have this on your radar screen literally every day, every week. Now, according to Gallup, there's 12 drivers of employee engagement. The one that I'll just share with you on this is that in the last 7 days, you've been recognized or praised for your work every 7 days. So if you think, well, I gave that person a thank you and a pat on the back a month ago, or a few months ago, realized that's not enough. People need to constantly get that type of feedback. It could be simple, direct, public or private, you decide, but they really need to hear from you on a regular basis. So have it on your radar every day, and every week be asking yourself, what am I doing for recognition this week? You're trying to catch the contribution that each person on the team is making and give them very direct, explicit feedback. In the presentation you gave to the client, love to give you some feedback. Here's where you did really well and really appreciated how flexible, thought on your feet, very creative, you kept your cool, whatever it was. So be very specific when you give the feedback. And it's really more about recognizing them and complimenting them on something they did well. Right? And keep it to noticing what they did well and appreciating that. Different conversation when you're giving somebody that performance feedback of where to improve. Right now we're talking about recognition, okay? So that's it for the 7 strategies. Now, for high performance teams, just to recap, you need to start with your strengths. Move on to the strengths of the team so you can really create synergy there. Invest in the development of each person so they feel like they're learning and growing and they connect that to what the team is working on. Have a written plan with your targets, your metrics, and your milestones. Have that written document in front of you when you and the team are discussing progress and next steps, because you want to really dig right into the execution, the details of what you're working on. Make sure you're moving the team forward. You've got to have forward progress, constant progress. You need to address problems quickly and engage people with the right skills on solving those problems. Be proactive about knowing who's a really great problem solver, what kind of problems. And when we have those problems, engage those people right away, right? They're going to love it. Shine a spotlight on the team's progress and accomplishments, because other parts of the organization, your key stakeholders, your target audience, they need to know the good work that you're doing and that you have a high performance team, and show them the evidence for that, right? Share some of the tangible progress and those metrics, success metrics, in your communication. And lastly, be sure to give each person and the team overall the recognition that they'll most appreciate, because recognition is a key driver of engagement and actually really does eventually affect the bottom line. So those are the 7 strategies I wanted to share with you today. And hopefully this episode was helpful for you. I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast, The Success Talk Show. Subscribe in iTunes to get the future episodes. And I'd love to hear from you. So leave a comment in iTunes on the ratings and reviews tab. Love to get your feedback. And anyway, just want to thank you for listening and have a great day.